Aliens mistakenly called humanity for help, and a fleet arrived reaches its dramatic peak when Captain Velan abandons self-preservation to rescue 200 trapped humans aboard the crippled Starborn. As Morkos weapons fire blazes across the void, the Calvian scout ship sacrifices its protective cloaking to evacuate the wounded, forging an unbreakable bond between species amid the crucible of battle. The vast expanse of space stretched before the Astrovigilance, its sleek hull reflecting the purple glow of Valis's sodium oceans below. Captain Raul Elix, known to his crew as Velan, stood silently on the command deck, his blue metallic skin shimmering under the dim lights, amber eyes fixed on the tactical display. The 3 stars of the Calvian system cast their multicolored light through the viewports, illuminating the faces of his attentive crew. "Any movement from the Morkos patrols?" Velan asked, his voice steady despite the tension that had built over weeks of border surveillance. "Nothing conclusive, Captain," replied Xavier Trent, the ship's lead engineer. "But our long-range scanners detected unusual energy fluctuations near the Mora Belt. The pattern doesn't match anything in our databases." It was the year 2478 CE. 3 centuries after humanity's exploratory vessels had briefly visited the Calvian system, leaving behind fragments of knowledge about fossil fuel technology before departing. Since then, the 3 planets of the Calvian conquered, Valis, Zaret, and Damar, had developed their civilization in relative isolation, building floating metropolises above Valis's sodium oceans and establishing outposts on their sister planets. The peace of their scientific society now faced its greatest threat. The Morkos Collective, a mysterious, semi-mechanical, semi-organic hive-mind entity, had been steadily advancing toward their system, consuming planetary resources in its path and leaving desolation behind. Velan's small reconnaissance vessel was tasked with monitoring the border regions while gathering intelligence on the Morkos. The Astrovigilance was currently hidden in the shadow of an icy moon, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it nearly invisible to conventional scanners. "Captain," called the communications officer, "I'm detecting a massive energy wave propagating from the Morkos fleet. It's different from their standard communications." Velan moved swiftly to the station. "Show me!" The holographic display flickered to life, displaying a wave pattern of unprecedented magnitude. The energy signature pulsed outward, not toward Calvian space as expected, but in the opposite direction, toward a region of space where nothing of strategic importance existed. At least, nothing the Calvian Concord recognized. "It appears to be a transmission," Xavier said, analyzing the data. "But our translation matrix is struggling with the encoding." The communications officer's fingers danced across the interface. "I'm running it through our decryption algorithms. The structure resembles... Wait, this can't be right." "What is it?" Velan demanded. "The message contains star standard characters. Captain, it's an old interstellar communication protocol developed centuries ago." "Let me see." Velan leaned closer as the translation appeared on screen. "Help, Alliance Calvian." A chill ran through the command deck. Velan's amber eyes narrowed in confusion. "This makes no sense," he said firmly. "The Calvian Concord has never sent distress signals to any external civilization. Certainly not to humans. We haven't even had contact with them in 3 centuries. Could it be a malfunction in our systems?" Xavier suggested. "Or a deliberate deception," Velan replied, his mind racing. "The Morkos must be attempting to draw humanity into our conflict. But why? And how did they access Star Standard protocols?" The implications were staggering. If humans received this message and believed the Calvian Concord was requesting assistance, they might send forces into Calvian space. Such an incursion could trigger interstellar conflict, or worse, lead to an alliance that might forever compromise Calvian independence. "Set course for Celestia immediately," Velan ordered. "The High Council must be informed." As the Astrovigilance engaged its engines and slipped away from the moon's shadow, The energy wave continued its journey across the vast emptiness of space, carrying its misleading plea toward the solar system. The Grand Council Chamber of Celestia, Valus's capital city, buzzed with urgent voices. Suspended above the sodium oceans, the city's gleaming spires reached toward the purple sky, their fluon mahur alloy structures catching the light of the three Calvian stars. Velan stood before the assembled counselors, his uniform bearing the insignia of the scout fleet. At the center of the semicircular table sat Velan Allure, the head of the Celestial Council and highest political authority in the Calvian Concord. You claim the Morkos Collective has sent a distress signal to humans using our name. Allure's tone was skeptical. His aged face creased with concern. Yes, Counselor, Velan replied. Our analysis indicates it was a case of mistranslation. The Morkos automated systems appear to have copy-pasted our identification markers into a standardized message template, creating the appearance of a distress call from Calvion. Another counselor leaned forward. And you believe humans will respond to this? The message was transmitted with a 98.5% authenticity verification code, Velan explained. Any advanced civilization would recognize it as genuine. This is preposterous, countered a military advisor. We should focus on strengthening our defenses against the Morkos, not worry about humans who might not even exist anymore. With respect, Velan said firmly. Ignoring this development could be catastrophic. If humans arrive expecting to assist us against the Morkos, they may misinterpret our situation entirely. Allure steepled his fingers. What do you propose, Captain? I recommend sending a small envoy to intercept any human response. The Astrovigilance is fast and equipped with our best translation systems. We could reach the outer solar system using our jump drive before any large human fleet mobilizes. Absolutely not! Allure slammed his palm on the table. Breaking our isolation protocols by directly approaching humans could be interpreted as an act of aggression. We know nothing of their current capabilities or intentions. Counselor, I believe... Furthermore, Allure continued, if you're wrong about this message, you would have violated our most sacred security directives for nothing. The punishment for such an act is death. Captain Elix. The chamber fell silent. With all due respect, Velan said, his voice steady. If I'm right and we do nothing, the Morkos will destroy Valis before any miscommunication with humans becomes relevant. Hours of heated debate followed. Military strategists presented projections of Morkos fleet movements. Intelligence officers analyzed the probability of human intervention. Political advisors weighed the risks of external contact against the threat of Morkos invasion. Finally, Allure raised his hand for silence. Captain Elix, your warning has merit. Despite the controversial nature of your proposal, the Council authorizes the Astrovigilance to undertake this mission. You will travel to the edge of the solar system, assess the human response to the false distress signal, and attempt to clarify the situation. Under no circumstances are you to reveal sensitive information about our defenses or technology. Allure's eyes narrowed. Be warned, Captain. If this mission results in any threat to the Calvion Concord, you will face the consequences alone. Velan bowed his head slightly. I understand, Counselor. We will depart immediately. As Velan left the chamber, he felt the weight of his mission pressing down on him. He was about to make first contact with a species that had been almost mythological to the Calvian people for centuries. And if he failed, he might inadvertently lead that species straight to their doorstep, or face execution for his efforts. Either way, the future of the Calvian Concord now rested in his hands. Far across the void of space, in the bustling command center of the First Planetary Alliance's headquarters on Earth, Admiral Elena Torres studied the holographic projection with intense concentration. The distress signal captured by their deep space monitoring stations had triggered immediate protocols across the highest levels of Earth's unified government. You're certain about the authenticity? She asked, her sharp eyes scanning the data streams. Dr. Mei Huyan, The Alliance's foremost expert on extraterrestrial linguistics nodded confidently. The signal carries a 98.5% verification score on our authentication protocols. It's using star standard formatting, something we haven't encountered in external communications for decades. And the content? Torres pressed. A distress call from a civilization identifying itself as the Calvian Alliance, requesting assistance against something called the Morcos Collective, replied Science Colonel Kiran Shah, who stood beside Dr. Huyen. Our databases contain fragmentary references to a stellar system named Calvion from exploratory missions 3 centuries ago. But little substantive information survived from that era. Admiral Torres turned to face the assembled members of the Interdepartmental Council. Representatives from military, scientific, diplomatic, and political divisions were present, all wearing the unified insignia of Earth's planetary alliance. Ladies and gentlemen, we appear to be facing a historic moment, Torres declared. For the first time in centuries, we've received a verified distress call from a non-human civilization. Our response will define humanity's place in interstellar relations for generations to come. Security Minister Caden Riker stepped forward, his expression troubled. Admiral, I must express reservations about any hasty military action. The Planetary Alliance Charter emphasizes peaceful resolution of conflicts. Sending a battle fleet beyond our established borders could be seen as an escalation. Minister Riker, Torres countered. The interstellar law of salvage and assistance is equally binding. When a distress call is received, we are obligated to respond. Not doing so would undermine both our diplomatic credibility and the honor of the Alliance. Dr. Huyen cleared her throat. Our preliminary analysis suggests the Morcos entity mentioned in the message possesses a sophisticated hive mind technology capable of controlling multiple vessels simultaneously. If this entity is truly invading Calvian space, the threat could eventually reach our borders as well. The debate continued for hours, with various counselors expressing concerns about resource allocation, political implications, and the possibility of misinterpreting an alien communication. Finally, Admiral Torres stood at the center of the chamber and outlined her proposal. I recommend deploying a response fleet consisting of 40 combat vessels, including 5 Titanus-class dreadnoughts, 10 heavy cruisers, 15 destroyers, and 10 frigates, supported by 5 scientific vessels. Our mission will be to verify the source of the distress signal and provide appropriate assistance while demonstrating our peaceful intentions. After further deliberation, the Council voted to approve Torres's plan. Preparations began immediately, with ships being recalled from their stations throughout the solar system and crews briefed on the extraordinary nature of their mission. As Admiral Torres left the Council chamber, she was joined by Dr. Huyen and Colonel Shaw. Admiral, Shaw said quietly, there's something about this situation that doesn't quite add up. Why would a civilization we haven't contacted in centuries suddenly reach out to us specifically? Perhaps they have no other allies, Torres suggested. Or perhaps our reputation as peacekeepers has spread further than we realized. Or perhaps, Dr. Huyen added thoughtfully, we're missing something crucial about this message. The structure of the communication seems oddly formatted, even accounting for alien syntax. Keep analyzing, Torres ordered. I want to know everything possible about both Calvion and the Morcos before our fleet makes the jump. We're about to venture into unknown territory, and I intend for us to be prepared for any scenario. What none of them could anticipate was that the Astra Vigilance was already racing toward them. Its captain desperate to prevent a misunderstanding that could change the course of 2 civilizations forever. The hyperspace jump was always a moment of terrible beauty. As the Astra Vigilance's engines engaged the dimensional fold, the fabric of space-time warped around the ship in brilliant cascades of energy. Inside the vessel, Velan and his crew experienced the disorienting sensation of existing simultaneously in multiple points in space before reality reasserted itself. They had navigated through 3 intermediate star systems, plotting a hazardous course toward the solar system. Each jump strained the ship's engines, pushing the jump drive technology to its limits. "Final jump complete, Captain," reported the navigation officer. "We've arrived at the coordinates of Lagrange Point 6, just beyond the orbit of what humans call Mars." Velan exhaled slowly. "Status report. Cloaking systems operational at 87% efficiency." Xavier reported from his station. "Jump drive requires cooling before another transit is possible. Life support nominal. Scanners detecting multiple large objects in nearby space, likely human vessels." "Maintain cloaking and establish passive observation," Velan ordered. "I want to understand their deployment before we reveal ourselves." The tactical display showed a gathering of human ships at Lagrange 6, forming a staging area for what appeared to be a substantial fleet. The size and configuration of the vessels suggested serious military capability, confirming Velan's fears that the humans had indeed mobilized in response to the false distress signal. "They're preparing for a major operation," Xavier observed. "These formations are consistent with long-range deployment protocols." Before Velan could respond, an alarm sounded across the command deck. "Captain, we're detecting Morkos energy signatures," the sensor officer called out. 3 scout vessels on an intercept course. They must have followed our jump trail." "How did they track us through hyperspace?" Xavier demanded, rushing to verify the readings. "It doesn't matter now," Velan said grimly. "If they attack us here, the humans will detect the combat and might misinterpret it as an assault on their territory." He made a swift decision. "Disengage cloaking. Open a communication channel to the human fleet using Star Standard protocols. We need to establish contact before the Morkos arrive." As the Astra Vigilance decloaked, alarms blared throughout the human command vessel. Admiral Torres rushed to the bridge, where officers were reporting the sudden appearance of an unknown ship near their formation. "Configuration unknown, Admiral," reported the tactical officer. "The vessel appeared out of nowhere, some kind of advanced cloaking technology." "Weapon status?" Torres demanded. "None powered, but the design suggests military capability." "Open fire shield protocols," Torres ordered. "Be prepared to receive remains if this is a suicide approach." The human fleet shifted formation, creating a defensive perimeter around their command ships, while keeping weapons primed, but not targeted. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission on Star Standard frequencies," the communications officer announced. "Visual data incoming." The main view screen activated, and the bridge crew fell silent as they beheld the unmistakably alien figure of Captain Ral Elix. His blue metallic skin and amber eyes marked him clearly as non-human, while his military-style uniform suggested a structured society. "This is Captain Ral Elix of the Calvian scout vessel, Astra Vigilance," Velan began, speaking carefully in the Star Standard language his translators had reconstructed. "I come with urgent information regarding the distress signal you received." Torres stepped forward. "This is Admiral Elena Torres of the Earth Planetary Alliance. We received a distress call from Calvion, requesting assistance against an entity called the Morkos Collective." "That signal was not sent by us," Velan explained hurriedly, aware that Morkos scouts were approaching. "It was a mistranslation generated by Morkos communication systems. We do not want humans to attack Calvion." His unfortunate choice of words sent a wave of tension through the human bridge. Security personnel moved toward defensive positions, and targeting systems began to lock onto the Astra Vigilance. Torres raised her hand, signaling her crew to hold position. "You're saying the distress signal was false? Then why have you come here?" "To prevent misunderstanding," Velan replied, realizing his error. "The Morkos Collective is indeed a threat to Calvion, but we did not send that signal. The Morkos intercepted and manipulated our identification codes." Torres studied the alien captain carefully. "And we should believe you because—" Understanding the precariousness of his position, Velan made a calculated risk. He activated his personal cloaking device, disappearing momentarily from the view screen before reappearing. If I meant harm, Admiral Torres, I would not reveal our technological capabilities. I come alone in a small vessel. The Morcos, however, travel in massive hive-connected fleets that consume everything in their path. As if on cue, the tactical officer called out, "Admiral, multiple unknown vessels detected entering the outer system. Weimar sector. Configuration doesn't match the Calvion vessel. Count approximately 100 objects moving in formation." Wieland's expression tightened. "The Morcos have followed me here. They must have calculated that humans would respond to the false distress signal and position themselves to intercept your fleet." Torres faced a critical decision: trust this alien who claimed the distress signal was false, or assume he was attempting to prevent human intervention against the approaching fleet. "Captain Elix," she said firmly, "I'm willing to provisionally accept your explanation, but those approaching vessels will test the truth of your words very quickly. If they are hostile as you claim, what weaknesses can we exploit?" Wieland didn't hesitate. "The Morcos operate on a hive mind frequency that coordinates their semi-organic, semi-mechanical systems. Disrupt that frequency, and their vessels lose synchronization." "Colonel Shaw," Torres called. "Analysis." Shaw studied his readings. "The approaching fleet does show unusual energy patterns, consistent with a distributed neural network. If Captain Elix is correct, our phase disruptor technology might be effective against such a system." "Then, we prepare for combat," Torres declared. "Captain Elix, your vessel will remain under observation, but we welcome your tactical input. If these Morcos are as dangerous as you claim, we face a common threat." The human fleet began to move into battle formation, weapons charging as the Morcos armada approached. Wieland transmitted technical data about the Morcos hive mind frequencies to Colonel Shaw, who rapidly integrated the information into the human weapon systems. "Admiral," Wieland offered, "my vessel is small but equipped with advanced sensors. If you allow us to position ourselves behind your main formation, we can provide real-time analytics on the effectiveness of your attacks." Torres nodded. "Granted, but understand that any suspicious movement will be met with immediate response." As the two unlikely allies prepared for battle, the Morcos fleet entered weapons range, their asymmetrical vessels resembling twisted, biomechanical insectoids. The first wave accelerated toward the human formation, energy weapons charging. "All vessels, engage phase disruptors," Torres commanded. "Target the lead ships first, then spread to disrupt their communication patterns." The human dreadnoughts fired simultaneously, releasing waves of energy calibrated to the exact frequency Wieland had provided. The beams struck the Morcos vessels, causing no physical damage but creating a ripple effect through their formation. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, chaos erupted. The Morcos ships suddenly ceased their coordinated approach. Several collided with each other, while others began firing randomly, hitting their own vessels. Still others simply drifted, their systems apparently paralyzed by the disruption of the hive mind connection. "It's working!" Shaw exclaimed. "Their neural network is experiencing cascade failure." "All cruisers and destroyers, target the disoriented vessels," Torres ordered. "Focus fire on their propulsion and weapon systems." The human fleet surged forward, capitalizing on the Morcos' confusion. Precision strikes disabled or destroyed 25 key Morcos vessels within minutes, breaking their formation completely. From his position behind the human line, Wieland watched with a mixture of awe and relief. The humans had accomplished in moments what Calvion military strategists had deemed nearly impossible, disrupting the Morcos' collective consciousness on a fleet-wide scale. Then disaster struck. A group of Morcos ships, operating on some backup autonomous system, launched a desperate counterattack. Energy torpedoes streaked across space, most missing their targets due to the disrupted targeting systems. But one found its mark, striking the human frigate Starborn and crippling its engines. "The Starborn is reporting catastrophic engine damage," the tactical officer reported. "Life support failing. Estimated 200 crew members trapped in the aft sections." Velan watched the stricken vessel, its hull breached and atmosphere venting into space. Without hesitation, he made a decision that would change everything. "Admiral Torres," he called. "The Astra Vigilance has advanced rescue capabilities. We're moving to assist the Starborn." Without waiting for permission, Velan ordered his ship toward the damaged frigate. As they approached, he made another fateful choice. "Disengage cloaking systems. Divert all power to shields and rescue apparatus." The Astra Vigilance's cloaking field, its primary defense, dissolved, leaving the small vessel exposed as it maneuvered alongside the much larger human ship. Extendable docking tubes deployed from the Calvion vessel, attaching to the Starborn's hull. "We've established connection," Xavier reported. "Beginning evacuation of human crew." As Morkos weapons fire continued to flash across space, the Astra Vigilance held position, its shields straining to protect both vessels. Inside the damaged frigate, Calvion rescue teams in environmental suits rushed through smoke-filled corridors, guiding injured human crew members to safety. Admiral Torres, observing from her command ship, personally coordinated the rescue effort. "Divert destroyers 3 and 4 to provide covering fire for the rescue operation," she ordered. "Get those people out of there." The contrast was stark, the chaotic, destructive energy of the Morkos weapons against the determined, precise rescue operation conducted by the Calvion crew. For many humans, it was their first direct interaction with an alien species, occurring in the midst of fire and danger. As the last survivors were evacuated, the Starborn's reactor reached critical levels. The Astra Vigilance detached just moments before the human vessel exploded, the shockwave buffeting the smaller ship, but failing to breach its shields. In that moment of shared peril and cooperation, something profound changed between the humans and the Calvion representative. What had begun as suspicion transformed into the first fragile bonds of trust, forged in the crucible of combat. The battle continued for hours, but its outcome was increasingly clear. The disruption of the Morkos hive mind had broken their offensive capability, and the human fleet methodically disabled or destroyed the remaining hostile vessels. Those Morkos ships capable of retreat did so in disarray, their once perfect coordination shattered. As the firing ceased and damage reports began to flow in, Admiral Torres opened a direct channel to Captain Ilix. "Captain, on behalf of the Earth Planetary Alliance, I extend our gratitude for your assistance. Your warning about the Morkos and your crew's bravery in rescuing our people will not be forgotten." Velan, exhausted but relieved, nodded solemnly. "Admiral, what you've witnessed today is only the beginning. The Morkos collective is vast, and this defeat will not deter them for long. Our civilizations face a common enemy that threatens all sentient life." "Then, perhaps," Torres suggested, "it's time we discussed a more formal alliance between our peoples." As the human and Calvion vessels regrouped amid the debris of battle, the foundation was laid for a relationship that would reshape the future of both civilizations. The aftermath of the battle was sobering. 8 human ships had sustained severe damage, with 2 vessels completely lost, resulting in approximately 600 casualties. The Astra Vigilance had suffered engine damage, and 5 crew members had perished during the rescue operation. The Morkos losses were far more substantial. 60 vessels had been rendered inoperable when their hive mind connection was severed, most either self-destructing or falling victim to precision strikes from the human fleet. The remaining ships had retreated in disarray, though intelligence suggested they would eventually reorganize. As emergency teams from both species worked to rescue survivors and repair damaged vessels, the political ramifications of the encounter began to unfold. Admiral Torres established a secure communication link with Earth, while Velan made contact with the Celestial Council on Volleys. In the Grand Council chamber of Celestia, the news of the battle sparked intense debate. Many counselors expressed admiration for the humans' courage and effectiveness against the Morcos. Others, including Allure, remained cautious. While we acknowledge the tactical success, Allure said during an emergency session, we must consider the long-term implications. The Morcos may return with adaptations to counter the disruptor technology. And now, humans know of our existence and capabilities. A senior military advisor countered, the humans' phase disruptor technology, combined with our understanding of Morcos communication patterns, proved more effective than our most optimistic projections. This suggests a potential for meaningful technological exchange. After hours of deliberation, the Council reached a consensus. Velan would be authorized to establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity, with the goal of creating a mutual defense pact against the Morcos threat. Meanwhile, aboard the human command vessel, Admiral Torres faced similar questions from the Interdepartmental Council back on Earth. The alien captain's information proved accurate, she reported. The Morcos vessels displayed exactly the vulnerabilities he described, and his crew risked their lives to save our people. I believe Captain Elix is acting in good faith. Security Minister Riker, initially skeptical of the mission, now acknowledged the strategic value of cooperation. The Morcos technology represents a significant threat to settled space. If they can follow a ship through hyperspace jumps, no system is truly secure. An alliance with Calvion may be necessary for mutual survival. Dr. Huyen and Colonel Shaw presented their analysis of the battle data, highlighting the effectiveness of the combined approach. Calvion intelligence on Morcos frequencies, paired with human phase disruptor technology. This partnership demonstrates extraordinary potential, Dr. Huyen concluded. Two distinct civilizations, developing along separate technological paths, brought together complementary capabilities that neither possessed alone. With the Council's approval, Admiral Torres was authorized to negotiate a preliminary alliance with the Calvion representative. As the immediate crisis subsided, joint rescue teams focused on recovering survivors from disabled Morcos vessels. Despite the destruction they had caused, the semi-organic components of the Morcos required humanitarian consideration. Human and Calvion medical staff worked side by side, developing protocols to stabilize the disconnected Morcos entities. Dr. Huyen collaborated with Xavier Trent to further analyze the disruptor technology, preparing enhanced versions in case the Morcos developed countermeasures to the current approach. Their work together bridged not just technological gaps, but cultural ones as well, as each gained insight into the other's scientific methods and thought processes. 3 weeks after the battle, a solemn ceremony was held at Celestia Orbital, the military headquarters of the Calvion conquered. A memorial depicting intertwined human and Calvion hands reaching toward a sunrise was unveiled, honoring those who had fallen in the conflict. Admiral Torres and Counselor Allure delivered speeches that, while given in different languages, echoed the same sentiment. When a civilization calls for help, we must answer, regardless of the cost. The ceremony marked not just remembrance, but the formal establishment of a lasting alliance between humanity and the Calvion Concord. The Calvion Human Alliance Act was signed aboard the orbital station, its provisions establishing a framework for cooperation that extended far beyond military matters. The military provisions committed Earth's forces to protecting Calvion's borders, while Calvion would provide biological research support and intelligence on Morcos activities. Scientific and cultural exchanges were formalized, with programs for student exchange, collaborative research, and the establishment of an interspecies training academy. The Interstellar Accord Academy, as it would be known, was established at Lagrange Point 6, the site where Velan had first revealed himself to humanity. The academy would serve as a training ground for future generations of both species, preparing them for the challenges of an increasingly complex interstellar community. As the formal ceremonies concluded, Velan, now appointed as Calvion's official ambassador to humanity, shared troubling news with Admiral Torres. Our long-range scanners have detected signals similar to the Calvion distress call, originating from two neighboring star systems, he explained, showing her the data. It appears the Morkos may be using the same strategy against other civilizations. Torres studied the information carefully. If other species are facing Morkos incursions, they may also need assistance. And if we can establish contact with them, we could form a multi-species coalition against the Morkos threat, Velan finished, expanding the alliance beyond just our two civilizations. The implications were enormous. What had begun as a potential misunderstanding between two species might evolve into the foundation of a true interstellar community, united initially by common danger, but potentially growing into something far more significant. I'll present this to the Council, Torres said. If these signals are genuine, we have an obligation to investigate. As do we, Velan agreed. The Calvian conquered has lived in isolation for too long. Perhaps our destiny lies in connection rather than separation. In the days that followed, preparations began for a joint expedition to investigate the mysterious signals. A combined fleet of human and Calvian vessels departed from Celestia Orbital, their integrated crews a testament to how quickly cooperation had developed between the former strangers. As the ships accelerated toward their jump points, few noticed the small, damaged Morkos scout vessel drifting in the darkness beyond Valis's outer moon. Inside, disconnected from the hive mind but not entirely disabled, a fragment of the Morkos consciousness began the slow process of adaptation and recovery. The battle had been lost, but valuable data had been gathered on both human and Calvian capabilities. In the void between stars, the seeds of future conflict were already taking root, even as the new alliance celebrated its initial victory. The next chapter in their shared story was about to begin, as the darkness prepared to return. The joint fleet moved steadily away from Calvion space, its mission of discovery and alliance building underway. Human and Calvian crew members worked side by side, their initial awkwardness gradually giving way to professional respect and even the beginnings of friendship. On the bridge of the flagship, Admiral Torres and Ambassador Velan studied star charts together, plotting the most efficient course to the source of the mysterious signals. Their conversation flowed more easily now, weeks of cooperation having worn away the sharp edges of first contact. "Do you think they'll be receptive to our approach?" Torres asked, referring to the unknown civilizations they sought to contact. Velan considered the question carefully. If they face the same threat we do, necessity may overcome caution. But first contact is always unpredictable, as we both well know. Torres smiled slightly. Indeed. When your ship appeared in our formation, I was moments away from ordering a very different response. And when I received the order to make contact with humans, I feared it might be my final mission, Velan admitted. The Council was not enthusiastic about breaking our isolation. Yet, here we are, Torres said, gesturing to the integrated crew around them. Perhaps that's the lesson in all this. That connection, however risky, offers possibilities that isolation never could. As their ships prepared for the hyperspace jump that would carry them toward new discoveries and potential allies, both leaders understood that they were venturing into uncharted territory, not just in space, but in the history of their species. Whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them together, representatives of an alliance that had been born in misunderstanding but forged in shared purpose. The stars beckoned, and humanity and Calvion answered their call as one.